Hello, my name is Jane Chartreuse, and I'm going to be teaching you how to play Castle Mononoke. The screen you're seeing now is what you'll see when you click the screentop.gg link for the game. So you're going to take a seat at one of the available table slots here. I'll pick the first Lost Soul position and click Join. Once I'm in there, I have a view of the tabletop with the game board in the center of the screen, a bunch of our characters, our lost souls to choose from in the upper left, the big bad, the Mononoke, down here in the bottom right, our yokai deck of crazy spiritual beings in about the center of the table, our resources, strength, health, and seals on the bottom right side, and a slot for our lost souls to appear in, along with matching player tokens for as many lost souls as you choose to participate in your game. Now, Castle Mononoke is a game of survival, and your survival depends on the defense of this beautiful castle. Without it, you'll be cast to darkness forever, so we have to keep it safe. In honoring this castle, we're going to start the game by setting it up. In the castle, you'll see that there are 4 floors. Going from the bottom to the top, we have the larder, where goodies and helpful resources like health and strength are stored. We have the armory, which can provide you defensive and offensive capabilities. We have the shrine, which has some of the most mystical kind of oddball, in cases predictive, in cases tricky abilities. And we have the tower, which has a lot of abilities related to foresight, to predicting things that are coming ahead from your great point of view. When we say floors, we're always referring to that level of the castle in the game. And the floors are filled with individual cards, which we call rooms. So in the base game, there are 8 cards for every floor, 8 room cards for every floor. And at the start of each game, we are going to shuffle our floor deck. We do that in ScreenTop by double-clicking a component. I'll show you again. If I want to select these rooms, I will double-click, and you'll see a number comes up above the component versus the number on the bottom of the component, which shows how many objects are in that stack. And when I have it selected, I can hit the Z key to shuffle it, and it will shake a little bit. So I'm going to shuffle that and then click 3 cards that I want to remove. We start the game with 5 room cards in each floor. So to do that selection of just the top 3 components, I'm going to hold the Shift key and click once, twice, 3 times to select 3 of those components. And I'm just going to drag them off to the side. Doesn't really matter where. And I'm going to do this for every floor. So I have 5 cards in each of my floor stacks. Once I've done that, the castle gets built out by having 2 rooms active in play for each floor. So I'm going to pick a card off the top of the larder, and as I'm holding this card, I'm going to hit the F key to flip it over, like so. And in that way, we will populate our starting castle. Now, rooms are one of my favorite parts of Castle Mononoke because, as I said, this castle is going to be under siege. Different yokai and the mastermind Mononoke, who is Gashadokuro here, who we're going to be playing against, are going to be attempting to dismantle this castle. And anytime they successfully destroy a room, we're going to take that out of play and we're going to immediately populate it with a new room from that stack. So these room cards have 2 main purposes in the game. One is they are locations that you will visit during the game to get resources to keep you going. And 2, they are a health bar for you. As the castle gets destroyed, if any floor ever completely runs out of rooms, then the game is over. You have lost. So it's a valuable thing to manage. You want to keep track of what rooms are good for you because when a room is destroyed, you get to pick which room in a floor is the one that gets destroyed. Maybe you destroy the one that's less valuable to you at a given time. Maybe there's one that you really, really feel like you have to keep because it's doing a lot for you at that time in the game. And you want to be wary of how many rooms are left in each floor, so you distribute the damage as well as possible and don't have a castle collapse. One other screen top command that I want to call out is this blow up function. This is super helpful, so you don't have to constantly adjust your zoom in the game. If you want to blow up any component to inspect it, you simply have to hover over it and hold the space bar for as long as you want to keep that in focus, which can help you read all of the things without, again, adjusting your zoom. So we're looking at a fully set up castle here. The next thing we're going to do for setup is select our lost souls, our protagonists who are going to experience this heinous couple of nights in the demon castle. I'm going to choose the Onabu Geisha, and I'm going to choose the Shinobi. Demon Castle Mononoke can be played at variable counts of both players and lost souls. So when you're playing solo, like I'm going to be doing here, we recommend starting with 2 lost souls. So you're playing a two-handed experience. But technically, I could play with 3 and I could play with 4. And that's not going to change the complexity of the game by a massive amount, other than giving me access to different character abilities, because the game scales not based off of how many players are in the game, but based on how many lost souls are in the game. So we can see the resources and how they scale for different lost soul counts by looking at any lost soul card. In the bottom left corner, you're going to see starting resources with 4 important symbols. There is hearts for the number of health tokens that lost soul is going to start with at different player counts. There's seals, the Omamori symbol. There's eyes representing the focus tokens. As you have more lost souls in the game, each lost soul is going to have less focus that they have access to. And then there's finally strength, which is the Japanese ka symbol. Just to illustrate what I mean about focus scaling, if I'm playing with 2 lost souls, each character is going to have access to all 4 of their focus, their full complement. But if I was to introduce a new lost soul to this game, so we have 3, I would instead only keep 3 focus on each lost soul. And if I were to have 4 lost souls, I would only have 2 focus on each lost soul. And that's the player's choice for which of their total complement of focus they're going to bring to the game. That's like a starting draft almost. The focus that you have drastically affect how your character is going to play during that game. So different combinations of lost souls, as well as what focus they bring, is part of variable setup and finding play styles that really align with what you like to do in the game. Getting into the other 3 resources, we have strength. Strength is how you will defend the castle against Mononoke. It's the primary resource that allows you to protect rooms and keep the castle healthy. Health is a resource that sits on your lost souls and keeps them running. If they ever run out of health, they will be knocked out temporarily. All of their focus will become temporarily unavailable, and you'll have to do something called resting to get that back and be able to contribute to the table again. And then finally, there are seals, which are these Omamori symbols. Seals are like a hybrid resource. They can be discarded to prevent a character from losing health. 1 seal prevents 1 lost health. Or they can be spent kind of like strength to protect the castle from some specific yokai. So looking at my reference here, at 2 lost souls, I'm going to take 6 health on each character, 4 seals, all 4 of each lost soul's focus, and 8 strength. Again, to select those right amounts, I'm going to be shift clicking to quickly get what I need, which is 6. And these components stack pretty easily if you drag and drop them onto where they need to go. 4 seals for each of them, and then 8 strength. That seems like a lot of resources, but trust me, they will go away quickly. After I've counted those out, that is all done for setup. In a real game, I'd also shuffle the yokai deck and shuffle the gate deck, which is up here, and shuffle one more deck, which is the attack deck. Last touches, I'll shuffle a couple other decks here. There's the yokai deck. We'll randomize that. The attack deck here in black. And the gate deck. I'll give that a shuffle too, and I'll get into explaining why we care about those as we go through the first turn of the game. Your game of Demon Castle Mononoke is always going to start en media res. In the fiction, you've been traveling with this band of unlikely lost souls, and you found shelter in this abandoned castle. Just as you're starting to get to sleep on your first night there, a yokai shows up, and that's the start of the action. So we can see that turn, that order of play represented on the left bottom corner of the castle board. We start with the arrival. There's no player actions there. That's basically the setup. And then we get to the Dusk yokai. Every night that you spend in the castle, and you're going to try and spend 6 nights in the castle to win the game. If the castle is still standing by the end of 6 nights, you have won. Every night, you're going to see 2 yokai come up, a Dusk yokai and a Dawn yokai. So let's look at some of those yokai now. The first one that we have showing up here, I'm just going to take the top off the deck and flip it over so the table can see it, is Ameona. The structure of the yokai is that you have the yokai's name, a description written by Hiromi Kota, a little microfiction, and then some symbols of what floors that yokai is seeking to destroy in the castle. That's the first thing you want to pay attention to because that's essentially the threat coming out of that yokai. The other really important information is on the bottom right side of the card with the claw symbol. That is the number of attacks that yokai will deal to any lost souls who collectively engage with it and try and protect the castle from what it's trying to do. So 3 rooms getting destroyed is kind of bad. Looking at that, we have the larder, the armory, and the shrine. Going to destroy 1 room in each of those floors. And to prevent that from happening, there's a resource cost on top of each of those symbols. The larder, which is the leftmost like bottle of rice is what I was going to say. Bowl of rice has a yellow 2 Omamori symbol there, which remember is seals. The armory has 4 strength, and the shrine, the Torii gate there, has also 4 strength. So looking at my lost souls, they each have 8 strength and 4 seals. They have all of their focus ready to go. I think I'm going to try and prevent damage from happening to the castle from this yokai. Now, in order to do that, in order for my lost souls to do anything to stop this yokai, they have to have at least 1 focus that they are going to commit to dealing with that yokai by placing it on the yokai. And I mentioned that these focus represent the character abilities of each lost soul. Those abilities trigger when I do this. When I take a focus and put it on a yokai, that's when the ability triggers. So I'm going to start off with the shinobi. I'm going to use their scouting focus. Each of the focus has a theme, and these themes are shared across the lost souls. The scouting focus tends to give you some information about what's coming up. So when I put that on Ameona, the ability is reveal the top 2 cards of the yokai deck, and I'll do that right now. We see Kotengu is coming up, as is Nureona, the snake woman. Now, whenever you reveal cards in Demon Castle Mononoke, they get flipped over and they stay revealed. So you never have to remember that information is now just exposed for the table to see. Since I exposed 2, I'm going to keep them in the same order that they were in, because the effect did not say I could reorder them. And I'm just going to stack them back the way I found them. Now, back to the focus. Like I said, having that focus on there lets me interact with the yokai. And any resources I'm going to contribute to protecting the castle, protecting those rooms that the yokai is, we say, besieging, I'm going to put on that focus to show that the shinobi is the one who contributed those resources. And that's a really easy way to show who's doing what, especially if you're trying to figure out who's already put stuff there. If you want to take something back and recalculate your approach, know that your resources are always on top of your focus. So from the shinobi, I'm going to do a fair share. I'm going to put in 4 strength and 1 seal. And I'm going to talk to my good friend, the Onabu Geisha, to say, why don't you do the same? So from the Onabu Geisha, I am going to pick this focus. I'm also going to use my scouting focus and put that on Amayona, trigger its ability. During the planning phase like this, you can choose to put focus in any order. You can discuss. So this is all strictly unordered. Just whenever you put a focus on, you resolve that ability. And once you've resolved the ability, it should stay locked in because it does change the game state. So this focus is going to reveal the top 2 unrevealed attacks. And I'm also going to gain 2 seals on the Onabu Geisha. The attack deck is right here. And you may have guessed, this correlates to the number of attacks on each of the yokai. So when that number 3 by the claw mark on Amayona comes up later in the turn, we're going to be drawing 3 of these attacks, which are mostly negative things that the Lost Souls need to deal with. Because the Amayona has used their focus, I'm going to take 2 of these cards. I'll shift click again, going to keep reminding you of that. Select 2 cards and press F to reveal them. And now I see some of the bad things that are inevitably in my future. The first one is D6 damage. Anytime you take damage, you're going to lose health unless you discard a seal to prevent yourself from losing some of that health. So that's bad. That's potentially a lot of health, being that my Lost Souls only start with 6. That could be a 1-hit KO. And I'm going to see another attack that's 1 damage, as well as a new floor that yokai is going to be besieging. They're going to also besiege the armory a second time because the Amayona is already besieging the armory. And this room has a cost of 1 strength to defend. So that's a really important detail of the attack deck. The attack deck can add additional rooms to what you have to deal with, but you don't usually know what's coming in the attack deck until you've already committed your resources for defense. For that reason, sometimes it makes sense to put more resources in than you need because you might get surprised. So leaving those there for now, I'm going to finish my focus and get also 2 more seals for the Onabu Geisha. I'm going to immediately put 1 of those on my focus because remember, there are 2 seals required to defend the larder and to defend both the armory and the shrine. We need a total of 8 strength. The shinobi's putting in 4. I will put in 4 from the Onabu Geisha. And because I know with the Amayona's 3 attacks, this second attack card is going to come up and add another floor, another 1-cost armory floor. Onabu Geisha will put in 1 more strength, 5 strength in total, so I can defend that one too. Pro moves, Onabu Geisha. Once I've decided about all the resources that I'm putting in, I've resolved all my focus abilities, that's when we get to actually drawing and dealing with the attacks. So the Amayona is going to have us draw 3 attacks, and the attacks work like this. You're going to count out as many cards as are on the yokai that have to be distributed amongst the Lost Souls that have a focus on that yokai. And the rules for that are that every Lost Soul who is there, who has a focus there, needs to take at least 1 of these attacks. But other than that, you can distribute them in any way that you like. So it's just 3, not a lot of combinations. Ona could take 1, Shinobi could take 2, or Ona could take 2 and Shinobi could take 1. Because I know that one of these is really bad. It's the variable 6 damage attack. I'm going to put that on the Onabu Geisha because she's pretty flush with good defensive resources. She has 5 seals and 6 health. And I'm going to give the remaining 2 to the shinobi, where I don't know what this one is, actually. But I'm hoping that they're going to be able to deal with it just fine. Once the attacks are distributed among Lost Souls, we flip them over if they're not exposed already, and we have to deal with the consequences. So the thing that's easiest to resolve first is the damage on each of these cards. For Onobu Geisha, I'm going to roll my d6 to see how much damage is coming against her. It's a 4. And I'm going to split this evenly among my available health tokens and seal tokens. I'm going to take 2 health out. I'm going to take 2 seals out. So I'm kind of balancing my total availability of resources there. And once I resolve that attack, I can put it in the attack discard pile right here. For the shinobi, I'm taking 2 damage. I think I'll do the same. I'll discard 1 seal to prevent 1 of that damage and take 1 health off the shinobi. And now I have a decision to make because just my luck, I saw 1 extra room coming, but there was a second extra floor that is being attacked here, which is the tower. So at this point, I'm going to look at all of the symbols amongst the Amaeona and any attacks that I drew and make a decision about how I distribute my resources. Just because I've put the strength on my focus on the Amaeona with the intent of defending what was originally there doesn't mean my strength or my seals are committed to any of these symbols. You make that decision as the last decision you make in resolving that yokai. So I'm going to prioritize these lower cost symbols, the armory and the tower. And I'm just going to take 1 strength for my total pool here to show that I'm covered on those. I only have 2 seals and only 1 floor that needs seals to defend. So that one's a given. And then out of the 7 remaining strength, I'm only going to be able to defend the armory or the shrine here. So something's going to get blown up. In this case, I am going to save the shrine. So 4 strength will go to protecting the shrine. And then that other 3 strength is going to go to waste. It was committed, but I can't hit the defend cost on that last armory symbol. I only have 3 strength, and I would need 4 to defend that armory. So 1 room in the armory is going away. This is a great example because I can talk about picking which rooms are destroyed. I mentioned before that when a room is destroyed, you get to pick which one, which gives you some agency in curating what actions you're going to have available in the castle later in the game. So there's 2 cards here right now. There's the Sashimono and the Tanegashima. The Sashimono is a more defensive item, whereas the Tanegashima is pretty offensive. I have a mix of offensive and defensive Lost Souls here. I'm just going to keep the Tanegashima because it's gun. I mean, it's gun. And as I remove that room, I immediately replace it with another, which is Wakizashi. After that, I can just clear off all the attacks that have been resolved, get them out of here. Any strength that was put on focus gets discarded. The seals as well. And then, very importantly, with my focus, any focus that were used in this encounter with the yokai go back to the Lost Soul that they belong to, but they get flipped over first. They get flipped over to this exhausted side. And exhausted focus cannot be used until I've taken a turn to rest, which I'll get to in just a second. But I'll take them back flipped over, and just know for now that they cannot immediately be used until I flip them back to their unexhausted side, the side that has a color on them. So with that, Amaeona has been disposed of. I'm going to take them and hit the E key to rotate them and put them in my discard pile, just to show we have taken care of that. I'm also going to go over to my turn tracker and move from Dusk of the first night to Dawn of the first night. That's when the second yokai shows up, and I've already revealed this yokai, but if I hadn't, I would flip them over, and in either case, We have to deal with him now. Kotengu. This guy's a little scary. He has a symbol that we haven't covered yet on him, which is this foggy moon. That is a shroud symbol. When you see those symbols, it is a mystery what floors of the castle that yokai is seeking to destroy. If one of those is not defended, you roll a d4, and counting up from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, a room in whatever die result you find is going to get destroyed. So for demonstration, I'll roll. Let's say I got a 1. A 1 would be the first floor. A room in the larder would have to be destroyed if I let one of those shroud symbols go through. You only roll that die after you've chosen not to defend or have been unable to defend. So we won't worry about it right now. But we do need to make decisions, like we did with the first yokai, about who's using focus to defend, and potentially who's not. Because a big part of Mononoke's design space is deciding when it makes sense to defend against the yokai and when it makes sense to sit out. I'll show the Lost Soul card again to kind of illustrate this. There's really 3 actions that Lost Souls have access to during the game, and those are on the right side of the card. The first is focusing, and that's what we've already done. That's when you put your focus on the yokai, you're interacting with it, you get to activate your ability, you can put strength, you can put seals on that focus, and then afterwards it's flipped over and given back to you. So a lot of nights in the castle, you'll be focusing. The other 2 happen kind of as like a flow chart, a line down here. If you do not focus, you have the option to assist, and assisting lets you help someone out who is focusing on the yokai. But then if you're not assisting and you're not focusing, you get to rest. Resting is how you get your focus flipped from the exhausted side back to the useful, colorful side. And resting only happens when you did not focus and you did not assist. So you get one of your focus tokens flipped back over, and you also get 1 health for taking a little nap. So looking back at Kotengu, I'm going to see if one of my Lost Souls can't handle protecting the castle from him by their lonesome. And when a Lost Soul is going in by themselves, the most important thing to think about is, can they sustain all of the attacks from that yokai? There's 4 attacks coming from Kotengu, and both my characters have 4 health and 3 seals, or 5 health and 2 seals, so effectively 7 health each. But the shinobi is better at defending themselves. They have a defensive focus that lets them discard one of the incoming attacks that they have to deal with. So I'm going to put that focus on the yokai and put in 4 strength. I'm also going to use a second focus. Characters can put in as many focus as they like on the same yokai to get all of those abilities. This focus is a die roll based one. It gives D4 strength, and it says add. Whenever something says add, that strength comes from the supply, not from my Lost Souls inventory. So I'm going to do that roll, and that's a 4, a lovely 4 on the strength roll. So I'm actually really well committed there. I can deal with rooms that pop up. In terms of the strength contribution, I'm great with just the shinobi. That means that the Onabu geisha doesn't really have to do anything. And not doing anything means she could rest. She could get back that exhausted focus that she used against the last yokai. So let's move on to attacks and see if that's actually what happens here. The Kotengu has 4 attacks. So I'm going to select 4 cards and pop them over here next to the shinobi. And you may notice some of these cards have unique backs. Oh my gosh, in fact, 3 of them do. The unique backed attacks are special to Gashadokuro. Every Mononoke has a suite of 4 unique cards that get shuffled into the attack decks. And because they have unique backs, you actually do know that they're coming sometimes. Or when you draw them, you know that they are unique attacks before you reveal them. Some of these attacks are very negative. They're worse than normal attacks. And some are artifacts, which are part of the Mononoke's mythos about how they can be foiled, whether it's like events or magical items or characters that might be really helpful and pertinent to that Mononoke's mythology. Some of these cards can be those and they can help me out. So in this case, it's kind of a gamble. Since the Shinobi's the only one here, they have to take all 4 of these attacks so I can reveal them. The first one is Takayashi's Mercy, which lucky me. That's one of those artifacts that I was mentioning. This one lets me discard this artifact to protect a single besieged floor. And I don't have to use that immediately. I can keep that, and then when I use it, I discard it to use it. So I'm just going to hold on to that since I already have plenty of strength in on this yokai. The second attack I'm dealing with, Battlefield Plague. That's nasty. That's 4 damage. Grasping Carpals. This one says draw 2 more attacks, which I do immediately. Oh gosh, that's very scary. I'll keep revealing. I got a D4 damage, a variable damage attack, 2 damage and break a gate. I'll talk about breaking gates, and another 2 damage and break a gate. So this is very, very scary. I'll get Grasping Carpals out because I've resolved that. These are the 4 that I'm left dealing with. D4 damage, 4 damage, 2 damage and break a gate, 2 damage and break a gate. So with this number of attacks, that's like somewhere between 9 and 12 damage coming at me. I need to do something so the Shinobi doesn't get knocked out here, doesn't get injured. One thing is I'm going to activate my focus ability, which my focus ability, remember, my focus ability is discard an attack. So I'm going to discard this Battlefield Plague, get this big one out of here. That leaves me with these 4. And I'm going to get to resolving them. So I'm going to roll my die. That is 6 damage coming at me. Oh gosh. I will not die from 6 damage because I have 2 seals and 5 health remaining on the Shinobi. But this is a good opportunity to talk about assists because the Shinobi would get so close to dying. The Onobu Geisha can intervene and help out. And the way they can do that is for any exhausted focus, any focus they have flipped to the gray side, they can use the ability on that exhausted focus to help someone else out as long as that character, the Onobu Geisha in this case, is not focusing on the yokai themselves. And this assist ability reads, another lost soul may discard an attack. So looking at these here, this 2 damage and break a gate, that's kind of bad. I am going to have the Shinobi discard that as well, help them out from the Onobu Geisha. So that means they're dealing with 2 damage from this D4 and 2 damage and break a gate from this other attack. So I'm going to actually discard 2 seals and take 2 health on the Shinobi. To finish resolving this attack, I do also have to break a gate. Gates are these cards in the top left of the castle board. And they deal with the Mononoke. So I'm going to break that now and teach you about that in just a second. Before getting to that, about the Onobu Geisha and their assisting. Because they decided they were going to help the Shinobi out during their encounter with the yokai, they do not get to rest. That's part of that flow chart I was mentioning. You can focus. If you don't focus, then you can assist. If you don't assist, then you could rest. So what that means is that the Onobu Geisha does not get to flip this focus over, even though they didn't do anything with that yokai. If they chose not to help the Shinobi out, they would instead flip that over. They would gain access to this focus again, and they would also get a health. So eventually, we are going to need to rest. On both characters, they're going to need to rest. But when you don't rest, you still have the ability to get involved and help someone else out at the table when things go sour. And insisting can be very, very helpful for that reason. So to finish resolving these attacks, those get discarded. there were no additional floors being besieged by this yokai. So I have 2 3-cost shroud symbols, and I have 8 strength in total on here. So I pay for those symbols easily. Kotengu does nothing to the castle, and the shinobi gets their focus back, exhausted. So the shinobi now, 3 out of their 4 focus are exhausted. They're going to have to rest really soon to be able to continue contributing to the game. They're also out of strength. They have no strength remaining, and they only have a little bit of health. And no seals, too. Gets pretty bad. I'm going to talk about that gate and then move on to the castle. Breaking gates happens at multiple points in the game. Some rooms break gates, and some yokai break gates based on attacks or other abilities. So gates, when they're broken, they always go on the Mononoke. And the Mononoke has 3 components to it where these gates can sit. They have the form, the truth, and the regret. And the gates that are broken always go on the leftmost one of these truth, form, regrets. So starting from form, then truth, then regret, until the number of gates there has been filled. Think of it like filling a tank. Form is going to hold 4 gates, truth is going to hold 4 gates, and then regret here will hold any remaining number of gates. That will hold infinite gates. And breaking these gates really represents unlocking the Mononoke's power, because the last night of the game is not going to look like the night that I just did. It is going to be an encounter with the big bad Mononoke themselves. And as you're battling that Mononoke, every one of these truth, form, regrets that has any gates on it, you are going to have to fight as if it were a yokai. So you can see each of them has floor symbols on it with different defend values. And each of these gates, if you flip them over, is actually an attack. And these are really bad attacks too. So know that anytime you break a gate during the course of the game, you are making your final encounter, your confrontation with the Mononoke, even harder. Back to the turn order, we have finished off Kotengu, totally defended Kotengu. So we're going to move from the turn track from dawn over to day. And day is when the Lost Souls have a chance to recuperate. And they're going to do that by exploring the castle and getting resources from the rooms that are available to them. So if I hover over one of these rooms, let's look at Survivor's Feast. If a Lost Soul enters this room, they gain 2 health, and they gain the ability to rest after assisting for this night, for these next yokai that I know are coming after this day that I spend in the castle. So that's really good for my characters, Shinobi and Ona here, who are really tired after their first sleepless night in the castle. How I can show that one of these characters is visiting a room is I can take their meeple and put it there. So I'm going to put it in Survivor's Feast from the Onabu Geisha, and they're going to get that 2 health. And I'll remember, because my meeple is there, that I have the ability to assist after resting tonight. Turn order during the day is clockwise, and it can rotate based off of who we say is the Night Watch. I forgot to put the Night Watch token in here, but there will be a Night Watch token. So the Shinobi goes second. They get to occupy a room. They're going to do Letting Go, which says gain 6 seals, lose 1 seal for each strength in your possession. The Shinobi has no strength, so that room is really great for them. They will pick up 6 seals that way. And then you may notice here that every character has 2 tokens. In a case where you're playing with less than 4 Lost Souls, some Lost Souls are going to get to take a second room in the castle. and they use their second token to take that second room. The number of rooms that you're going to take and visit at the during every day is always 4. So with 2 Lost Souls, each Lost Soul is going to visit 2 rooms. At 3 Lost Souls, 1 Lost Soul will get to visit 2, and the other 2 will only get to visit 1. And with 4 Lost Souls, every Lost Soul is only going to get to visit 1 room. So again, the total number of rooms you access during the day is always going to be a total of 4. So the Onabu Geisha, they're going to get some strength as well. They'll go take the Wakizashi. That gives them 2 strength. And the Shinobi, they could certainly use some strength. They're going to take the Tanigashima. They're going to take the gun, which gives me strength, but I just have to know that the Shinobi may not assist tonight, which is a restriction I'll have to pay attention to. With that, that's the end of day. Like I said, day is mostly about collecting resources, and we move on again to night, where we have our Dusk yokai. So this is Nuriona. We would fight Nuriona in the same way that we dealt with Kutengu and Ameona in our first turn, but that's really the main loop of Demon Castle Mononoke. We'll be playing the game in this kind of cycle, going through the attack deck, going through the gate deck as things progress, until we get all the way down to the last turn, where we need to deal with Gasha Dokuro. So yeah, that is how you play Demon Castle Mononoke. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy playing the game on ScreenTop and can enjoy the full copy by backing us online at GameFound. Bye-bye!